بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وأنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, respected brothers and listeners, inshallah tonight we're going to begin hopefully what will be a year-round series on related to Quranic sciences. So alhamdulillah, Ramadan is close. We have inshallah almost 2 weeks left. May Allah give us life to reach it with afi, iman, ameen. So a lot of people want to reconnect with the Quran in Ramadan, and the Quran is intended for all of humanity. As Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس. Ramadan is the month the Quran was sent down, is guidance for all mankind. So Quran is for everybody. But there is certain prerequisites that people need to come with in order to access the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And tonight I just wanted to do introduction to the science, what are known as the 10 primers, al-Mabadi al-Ashra, of the Principles of Tafsir. And the book that I was going to read from, inshallah, till we can complete, is Sharh usul fi Tafsir by Shaykh Muhammad bin Salih Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah, who passed away in, I believe, the year 1999 rahimahullah. So his book is unique because it is very simple, it's not very complex, and also he rahimahullah does a great job in explaining sometimes what may be seen as a complicated topic, and he makes it very simple to digest. So I was looking online to see if there is an English translation. I was unable to find one, but I'll keep looking inshallah if anybody wants to benefit. So usually, when you start a kitab of a scholar, the tradition is to talk about their biography and go in depth of their life. And the scholar rahimahullah, huwa ghaniyun an al-ta'rif, he is in need of no introduction for our era. But if anyone wants to learn about him, I can inshallah send them. There's even like YouTube biography, in the sense it wasn't him talking, but those people who knew him well, spoke about his life rahimahullah, and his mashallah Sadaqah Jariyah has benefited people after his death and in the furthest parts of the earth rahimahullah. He has great works in many subjects, but his specialty was fiqh rahimahullah. He was very great faqih rahimahullah, and the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia, and then after him it just became the scholarly organizations and associations, Hiya Kibar al-Ulama and Al-Lajna al-Da'ima. So groups of scholars come together. But anyhow, that was the introduction to what we will talk about. So in any science, before you begin, there's something known as al-Mabadi al-Ashra. Al-Mabadi al-Ashra, the 10 primers. So like, let's say you want to delve into a science of Islam, then when you take that science, be it tafsir, be it hadith, be it fiqh, be it aqidah, be it one of the Arabic sciences of the science of Arabic language, there are 10 primers, so that you know basically what this science is about. So the founder of, or not the founder, but the one who wrote couplets of poetry that are famously known now and referring to al-Mabadi al-Ashra, is by Ibn Sabban rahimahullah, who was from the 13th century Hijri, so like almost 200 years, more than 200 years back. So he says, Inna li kulli fannin mabadi ashra, for every science there are 10 primers. Hadduhu, so the first is, what is the definition of that science? So the word that we're studying in Arabic, the science is called usul tafsir. So there are 2 different words. Usul is principles, tafsir, the meaning of the Quran and the explanation of the Quran. So usul is plural of the word asl. Asl is the singular version of, or singular noun, meaning principle. And what is known in Arabic as ma yubna alayhi ghayru is something that is built upon. So it is a foundation that other things are built upon. And tafsir, and usul are known as, the plural is al-usus allati yubna alayha fi ilmin ma. The principles, be it you hear principles of fiqh, principles of hadith, now principles of tafsir, are those foundational elements that other things are built on regarding whichever science it may be. And then the word tafsir in Arabic, it can linguistically mean al-kashf wal-idah wal-bayan. Tafsir, to uncover or to clarify or to explain something. And then what it explains is that the meaning of tafsir in its technical definition istilahan is bayanu ma'ani al-Qur'an al-Karim, clarifying the meanings of the noble Qur'an. And then the technical definition of usul al-tafsir, the istilah definition is al-usus al-ilmiyyati allati yarji'u ilayha al-mufassir حال بيانه لمعاني القرآن الكريم وتحريره اختلاف فيه. It says it is the pillars of knowledge that the mufassir, the one who is explaining the Quran, returns to while he is explaining the meanings of the Quran and selecting the difference of opinions within them. And then what is the benefit of learning tafsir, right? So everything has a specific benefit, what is known as hadduhu. And then we said wal mawdu'u. The second part of the mabadi ashara is what is the subject? It is, we said, it is understanding the meaning of the Quran. Now the third is al-thamara. What is the fruit? It said thamaratuhu ma'rifatu قول الصواب في التفسير وتمييزه عن غيره والاحتجاج. The fruit of it is recognizing the correct opinion regarding tafsir and distinguishing it from other than it and using it for evidence. And it also, its benefit is to know what is the incorrect opinion and differentiating it from the correct one and not using that as evidence. And then it explains that one other benefit is having precision and understanding of the Quran and being safe from making mistakes in tafsir. And then he explains وَنِسْبَتُهُ, what is the relation of the subject usul al-tafsir to other subjects. He says it is a part of the sciences of Quran. So it is from the science of Quran. There are many sciences of Quran, but one of the most honorable of them is tafsir. In order to do tafsir, then the person must know the principles of tafsir. Okay, then after وَنِسْبَتُهُ, then is وَفَضْلُهُ. What is the virtue of learning usul al-tafsir? Is that it is from one of the most revered and regarded and noble and valuable subjects to study. Why? Because it is indirectly leading you to accessing the Quran, which has the most value in our religion. Out of all the things you can study, there is nothing that has more value than the Quran. As the Arabs say, شَرَفُ الْعِلْمِ بِشَرَفِ الْمَعْلُومِ. That the virtue of something is based, the virtue of a science is based off of what is being studied. So we're studying Allah's words, and there is nothing greater than Allah's words. فَضْلُ كَلَامِ اللَّهِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكَلَامِ كَفَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَى خَلْقِهِ. As the Prophet ﷺ reported in the Hadith Qudsi from Allah, he said that the virtue of Allah's speech over all other speech is like the virtue of Allah over all His creation. So that is the virtue of the subject usul al-tafsir. Third is, after that is al-wadi'. who is the founder of usul tafsir. Now I haven't researched this much, but from what I have come across, is the first one to write a book in the principles of tafsir is Shaykh al-Islam Ahmed ibn Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah has a kitab مقدمة في أصول التفسير, like a introduction to principles of tafsir. So that's commonly taught, and I was able to take that with one great scholar of our time and country, Shaykh Walid bin Idris al-Manisi, Hafidhullah, in Minnesota. And when I mentioned this to a professor of tafsir and Quranic sciences in the branch of Jami'atul Imam Muhammad Abdul Wahab, the university that's famously known in Riyadh, but they have a campus in Djibouti. I met the professor there, Dr. Abdul Razak Hussein Ahmed, may Allah preserve him. And I told him, like, what's a book to learn after Ibn Taymiyyah's Principles in Tafsir? And he actually mentioned to start with the book that we're going to cover, is the work of Shaykh ibn Ul-Uthaymeen, because it's very simple. So anyhow, that was who was known to be the founder. And then after studying who is the founder of the science of usul tafsir, then is والاسم استمداد وحكم الشارع. That what is the name of the relation of usul al-tafsir to other subjects. So it is related to the sciences of Quran, to hadith, to athar, the sayings of the Sahaba and the Tabi'un and early generations. It's related to the sciences of Arabic language. And then the ruling of it in the Sharia is that it is a fard kifaya, it is a communal obligation. So it's necessary to have someone in the Muslim society who can answer questions, remove doubts, dispel misunderstandings about the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla and the science of tafsir. So anyway, that was our introduction. So I don't mean to take much longer. But tonight we won't cover too much of the book. It's just basically read the author's introduction, and that will inshallah give us a clear picture of what will come ahead. So he starts with Khutbatul Haja, which is common, you hear in Jum'ah Khutbah and many other places. And then he explains in his introduction, he says, أما بعد, as for what follows, فإن من المهم في كل فن أن يتعلم المرء من أصوله ما يكون عونا له على فهم. He says that it is very important while studying any subject that the person first learn its principles, which will help him in understanding that subject. وتخريجه على تلك الأصول. And he will be able to extract from those principles. ليكون علمه مبنيا على أسس قوية. So his knowledge will be based on strong foundational pillars. ودعائم راسخة. وقد قيل من حرم الأصول حرم الأصول. And they say in Arabic, the one who has been deprived of knowing the foundation, they are deprived of actually reaching and understanding that subject. And he says, وَمِنْ أَجَلِّ فُنُونِ الْعِلْمِ, from the most revered and noble of sciences, بَلْ هُوَ أَجَلُّهَا وَأَشْرَفُهَا, but in fact it is actually the most noble and the most honored is علم التفسير, the science of tafsir. الذي هو تبيين معاني كلام الله, which is clarifying the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal, honorable is He and the Majestic. وقد وضع أهل العلم له أصولا, and the scholars, the people of knowledge, have established principles for tafsir. كما وضعوا لعلم الحديث أصولا ولعلم الفقه أصولا, just as they have established for the science of hadith and the science of fiqh principles. وقد كنت كتبت من هذا العلم ما تيسر لطلاب المعاهد العلمية في جامعة الإمام محمد بن سعود الإسلامية. So he said that I have written regarding this science some things that will make it easy for the students in some of the institutes of knowledge in the University of Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Saud al-Islamiyya. And he said, فَطَلَبَ مِنِّي بَعْضُ النَّاسِ Some people requested of me أَنْ أُفْرِدَهَا فِي رِسَالَةٍ that I make these writings into an exclusive epistle like a book. لِيَكُونَ ذَلِكَ أَيْسَرَ وَأَجْمَعَ So that will be more easy and more organized. فَأَجَبْتُهُ إِلَى ذَلِكَ So I fulfilled their request. So then he explains his own words. He said that this paragraph, it encompasses some of the important things that the human being should focus on regarding knowing the principles, meaning the principles of rulings, because the principles are those that collect the related branches or the details of the religion. And whoever depends on the branches and not the foundation, then he will lose the branches and the foundation, because the branches are like the leaves of trees that fall and move. As for the principles, they are like the roots of trees, and they are firm, or they keep the tree firm and upright. And he says, this is why I encourage every student of knowledge to guard or take care of the principles and foundations. Similarly, the rulings and the words that are inclusive, that include the different rulings. Because we see that some people from the students of knowledge and others, they focus on gathering the masail, individual rulings alone. They may learn 100 rulings or more, but they don't have any principles to base it off of. So he says that when any ruling is presented to them that opposes the ones that they had memorized, they are not able to deduce any benefit from them. So he says, then that's why we encourage the student of knowledge to recognize the principles. And then that's why he explains his statement, which is not his own words, but the one who is deprived of principles is deprived of arrival. And he says that he will not achieve or not reach his destination, and this is reality. Then he continues and he says that the knowledge that is most honorable, or the knowledge is given honor and virtue based off of its subject. And the subject of the principles of tafsir is the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal. So guarding it is the most important thing of guarding. فالاعتناء به أهم من الاعتناء بشرح الحديث. He says actually this has more importance and should be more prioritized than explaining the hadith. وأهم من الاعتناء بشرح متن من متون العلماء. It should be more prioritized than explaining the text of the scholars. لأنه تفسير لكلام الله. Because it is a means of explaining the meaning of the speech of Allah عز وجل. والعلوم تشرف بحسب موضوعها. And sciences are given virtue based off of their subject. And then he explains what is known as سبب تأليف الكتاب. You will find in Islamic history that scholars, although they were vast in knowledge, they usually selected a reason to write their book that was relevant to the societal or contemporary experiences of the Muslims in their land or surrounding lands. And that's why they would write them, to address that specific issue or issues. So he says that I increased by the will of Allah, and I had omitted some things that had no benefit from what he had wrote. So he said this book became now an abridgment, and most of what I relied upon is the book of Imam ibn Taymiyyah, Tafsir, may Allah have mercy on him, because it's a very beneficial book. But as it is known that the Shaykh rahimahullah, his speech is like a vast ocean, and sometimes people cannot reach. So he said that he would speak about something that would need it would need to be simplified for the student of knowledge. And then now we'll just look at what he says as to what he'll cover in the book, and then we'll just maybe take a little bit of what actually is the Quran, and then inshallah that'll be it for tonight. So he says, وَأَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى أَنْ يَنْفَعَ بِهَا. I ask Allah to make it beneficial. وَيَتَلَخَّصُ ذَلِكَ فِي مَا يَأْتِي. And it will be synthesized as for what will come in the following. So he'll mention the chapters in his book. Number 1, explaining Al-Quran al-Karim. So he will cover, inshallah, when the Quran was sent down on the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and who from the angels came down with the revelation to him from Allah. Number 2 is what was the first part of the Quran to be revealed. Number 3, the Quran is revealed in 2 key categories. Number 1 is sababi, that which has a incident of revelation, and number 2 is ibtida'i, that which did not have a direct incident of revelation. Some call the other word for ibtida'i nazari, meaning Allah knew its benefit was for all times. He didn't need a specific incident to reveal. Number 4, the Quran, the difference between Makki and Madani. What was revealed to Muhammad ﷺ before the Hijrah and after the Hijrah. And the clarification of the wisdom of revealing the Quran in different stages. And also he will talk about the tartib al-Quran, the order of the surahs. Number 5, Kitabatul Qur'ani wa hifdhuhu fi ahdi Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That the actual writing of the Quran by the Sahaba and its preservation in the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the last one, Jam'ul Quran fi ahdi Abi Bakr wa Uthman radiyallahu anhu. The Quran being compiled in the sense of one complete mushaf in the time of Abu Bakr when he was Khalifa, and then again in Uthman. Then the second part is tafsir. So once the person has a good grasp of the Quran and basically its different components, then he explains in tafsir, he says what is the meaning of tafsir linguistically and technically, and clarifying its ruling and the objective from it. Number 2, the obligation on the Muslim regarding tafsir al-Quran. Number 3, where is the tafsir of the Quran referred back to. So he says number 1, the speech of Allah, where Allah explains the Quran in the Quran itself. Tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. Number 2, the Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ, because he is the one who conveyed the religion from Allah, and he is the most knowledgeable of the humanity by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended in his speech, in his book. Then he explains 3 is the speech of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, especially those who had knowledge of the science of tafsir, because the Quran was sent down in their language and in their time. Number 4, the speech of the noble tabi'un and the most knowledgeable of the scholars of the tabi'un, those who gave importance by taking the tafsir from the Sahaba. And then he explains number 5, that which the words include meanings of the Sharia or linguistically regarding the different phrases that come in the different ayats of the Quran, and if there is a shar'i, a legal or lughawi linguistic difference of meaning, then the meaning of the shar'i meaning is given precedence unless there is a clear proof giving more weight to the linguistic meaning. So those are the 5 things he explains regarding to how the Quran is to be explained and interpreted, or how the meaning is to be found. Then he explains number 4 from the subject of tafsir. He will explain is the differences that are found in the tafsir al-ma'thur. So we find in tafsir, no matter how many scholars in the different centuries and different lands and different eras wrote tafsirs. Usually tafsirs come in 2 different styles of tafsir. Number 1, a tafsir bil-ma'thur, to explain the Quran through either a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the statement of Sahaba, Tabi'un, those who came with athar and traditions. The second is tafsir bil-ra'i, which is taking the principles for those scholars who qualify, and they use their own individual discernment by giving the explanation of the Quran. So he says that what are the differences that are found in the tafsir al-ma'thur, those that are explained by traditions and reports. Number 5, the tarjamatul Quran, recognizing it and its categories and the ruling of every kind. So he says there are 5 succinct tarjuma. So those who explain the Quran, recognizing them and its categories and the ruling on each one. So he says there are 5 biographies that are succinct of those who are famous in explaining tafsir, 3 from the Sahaba, 2 from the Tabi'in. He says أقسام القرآن من حيث الإحكام والتشابه, the categories of the Quran regarding that which is muhkam, it has one meaning, or mutashabih, it can have more than one meaning. Then he says موقف الراسخين في العلم والزائغين من المتشابه, this place or the position of those who are firmly grounded in knowledge versus those who deviate in following their desires regarding those ayat which have more than one meaning, the mutashabih. التشابه حقيقي ونسبي. He explains what is the mutashabih, those ambiguous verses in reality and what they're attributed to. It says الحكمة في تنوع القرآن إلى محكم ومتشابه. What is the wisdom of the Quran being organized in the muhkam, that which has one meaning, or mutashabih, having more than one meaning. And then he says موهم التعارض من القرآن والجواب عنه وأمثلة من ذلك. He says the doubts of those who try to challenge and attack the Quran and the answers of them and examples from them. So he says Al-Qasam, another chapter regarding the book, is oaths. Allah takes a lot of oaths in the Quran. تعريفه, recognizing it, عاداته فائدته, and how it is achieved and its benefit, or how it was sworn by and its benefit. And then he says Al-Qasas, he explains a bit about recognizing the stories of Quran, what is the objective of them, the wisdom from repeating them, their differences. Sometimes the stories are long, sometimes short, there are different styles. Then he explains Al-Isra'iliyat, what are the reports from the text of the people of the book, التي أحمت في التفسير, that are found in that are found in tafsir. وموقف العلماء منها, what is the sayings of scholars regarding them. And the last one, al-Dhamir, which has to do with the Arabic language, recognizing the pronouns and who it refers back to. وَالْإِظْهَارُ فِي مَوْضِعِ الْإِضْمَارِ وَفَائِدَةُ, knowing the difference between ism ظاهر, ism مضمر, and iltifat وفائدة ضمير الفاصل. So okay, that's what the book contains. So inshallah, those who can come We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us. But tonight the last part is just to start his book. He says, Al-Qur'anul Kareem. Now he's explaining the first part of the Quran. He says, Al-Qur'anu fil lughati masdaru qara'a. The Quran linguistically, it comes, its root goes back to the verb qara'a bima'na tala, to read or to recite. Or bima'na jama'a. Or it can have another meaning. قرأ means to gather. تقول قرأ قرآن وقرآن. He read, he gathered Quran. كما تقول غفر غفرا وغفرانا. A similar using the scaling of verbs for forgiving. He forgave, forgiveness. And فعلى المعنى الأول تلا, as for the first meaning he recited, يكون مصدرا بمعنى اسم المفعول. It will be a root noun in the meaning of something that is an inactive participle, right? So it's ism maf'ul, it is receiving the action of the one who is reading it. Active participle is the one who is doing the action, I believe is fa'al, and the one who is receiving the action, ism maf'ul, is inactive participle. أي معنى متلون. وعلى المعنى الثاني, for the second meaning, to gather, يكون مصدرا بمعنى اسم الفاعل, then it will be in the role of active participle, أي معنى جامع لجمعه الأخبار والأحكام. That the Quran, it gathers the different reports and the different rulings. So now he explains his words. He says the Quran is needed to be recognized linguistically and also legally. As for linguistically, they say that it is from the root word to recite. For the example, Allah, he says in Surah An-Nahl, ayat 98, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. When you recite the Quran, then seek refuge in Allah, مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ, from the shaitan accursed. Meaning, when you read the Quran, and then he says for the second meaning, to gather, جَمَعَ وَمِنْهُ الْقَرْيَةِ. That's why the word village in Arabic, qarya, comes from a similar root word, to gather, because the people who live in it gather to one place. And he says both of them are correct. And the Quran, if you say it is recited, it is correct. And if you say it gathers beneficial reports and just rulings, then it is also the same or correct. So the Quran is majmur. It is agreed. It is encompassing or inclusive. So the meaning of reciting comes in the act of being the active participle. It receives the action of being recited. And that is the same if it is recited in tilawa or in the meaning of qira'ah, by gathering. As for the one who reads with the meaning of tilawa, then it is ism maf'ul. It is the active participle. لأن القرآن ليس قارئا, because the Quran does not read itself. بل مقروء, it is read by others. فالقرآن بمعنى التلاوة. So the Quran, meaning to be recited, لا يكون إلا بمعنى اسم المفعول. Then it has to be in the tense of the active participle, the passive part, inactive participle. والقرآن بمعنى قرأ, أي الجمع يكون بمعنى اسم الفاعل وبمعنى اسم المفعول. هذا باعتبار القرآن اللغة. And this is a repetition of what was said before. So what is the definition of the Quran? If you want to be succinct, like if somebody asks you, okay, what is the Quran? So you said, والقرآن في الشرع. The technical definition of the Quran is كلام الله تعالى المنزل على رسوله وخاتم أنبيائه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم المبدوء بسورة الفاتحة المختوم بسورة الناس. The Quran in linguistic meaning is the speech of Allah that was sent down on His messenger and the seal of His prophets, Muhammad, peace be upon him. It begins with Surah Al-Fatiha, it ends with Surah Al-Nas. It's a very simple definition, it includes everything essential for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says Himself, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ تَنزِيلًا. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, indeed we are the ones who send down on you this Quran in It's gradually in stages. وقال إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. So indeed we have sent down the Quran in Arabic so that you may understand it and comprehend it. So the commentary he explains, he says that this Quran is a speech of Allah. It is His speech, and the meaning of it, وَالْقُرْآنُ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى لَفْظُهُ وَمَعْنَاهُ. The Quran is a speech of Allah in its wording and in its meaning. وَنَحْنُ نُؤْمِنُ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ تَكَلَّمَ بِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ الَّذِي نَقْرَأُهُ. And we believe as Muslims, or the creed of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, those who taught Tabi'un, that Allah, He recited the Quran in a way befits His Majesty, that we recited. آية أنه سبحانه وتعالى تكلم بقوله. Allah spoke with the speech Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Like we read Fatiha, Allah recited Surah Fatiha in a way befits His Majesty. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. Ayatul Kursi we read, Allah Azza wa Jalla recited. وما أشبه ذلك, and what is similar to that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke in a speech that was audible and relayed to us from through the agency of two noble messengers. Rasul al-Malaki, one was an angel, Rasul al-Bashari, one was a human. Rasul al-Malaki, Jibreel alayhi salam, was the angel who relayed the Quran. And Rasul al-Bashari, the messenger who is human, is none other than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Quran has been attributed to both of them in the Quran itself. Allah, He says, إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلُ رَسُولٍ كَرِيمٍ ذِي قُوَّةٍ عِنْدَ ذِي الْعَرْشِ مَكِينٍ مُطَاعٍ ثَمَّ أَمِينٍ. That Allah says in Surah Al-Takwir that indeed this Quran, it is the speech of a noble angel who is possessor of great strength, near the one of the I don't want to make a mistake mistranslating the Quran, but near the throne of Allah that is firm in establishment. مطاع ثم أمين. This angel Jibreel, he is obeyed and he is also trustworthy. So that is Allah mentioning of Jibreel alayhi salam. Another ayah in Surah Al-Shu'ara, نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين بلسان عربي مبين. This Quran was sent down to you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through Ruh al-Amin, the trustworthy spirit of Jibreel alayhi salam, على قلبك, on your heart, لتكون من المنذرين, so that you may be from the warners, بلسان عربي مبين, in a clear Arabic language. Okay, and then as for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلُ رَسُولٍ كَرِيمٍ وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ. That this Quran that's reciting, قُلْ إِنَّمَا يُوحَى إِلَيَّ, لا, the ayah in أن قل إنما أمرت أن أعبد رب هذه البلدة الذي حرمها وله كل شيء وأمرت أن أكون من المسلمين وأن أتلو القرآن. The Prophet was commanded by Allah to recite the Quran on them. لأنذركم به ومن بلغ. Okay, so anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is the speech of a noble messenger. وما هو بقول شاعر. It is not the speech of a poet. قليلا ما تؤمنون, little do you believe. وما بقول كاهن, is not the speech of a soothsayer. قليلا ما تذكرون, little do you reflect. And we probably heard the beautiful story of how this was the ayat that led to the guidance of Umar anhu when he was walking by the Kaaba in the night when he had finished drinking alcohol before Islam, and he heard Muhammad reading his salah aloud at night in the Haram, or near the Kaaba, and he was thinking maybe this is the speech of a poet. And then the next ayah the Prophet read from Surah Al-Haqqa, وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ. It's not the speech of a poet. قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ, little do you believe. Then he said maybe it's the speech of a kahin, a soothsayer. Then the next ayah he said is not the speech of a So saying, little do you remember or reflect. تنزيل من رب العالمين. This is sent down from the Lord of all the creation. So this changed his heart because Muhammad didn't know what he was thinking, nor did he know he was there. And these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose, inspired Muhammad to read them at that salah without knowing Umar would come. And he had made the dua the night, O Allah, honor Islam through whichever two Umar is more beloved to, either Amr ibn Hisham, who's Abu Jahl, or Umar ibn Khattab. He says, فالرسول هنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم لأنهما بلغا. He says the messenger referred to these verses in Surah Al-Haqqa is Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, and both of them conveyed. So inshallah we'll stop here. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت.